The moment a child can grasp a sentence, they are bombarded with a narrative. They are told who they are, what to believe, and that their parents' way is the only way. Critical thinking? That's not just discouraged. It's framed as sinful, as a sign of weakness, or worse, of spiritual rebellion. Blind faith, on the other hand, is lauded, rewarded. The message is unmistakable. Questioning is dangerous. Obedience is divine. Now, religious institutions are not dummies. They know that if a child isn't thoroughly immersed in their dogma by a tender young age, before their critical faculties fully develop, they're likely to eventually see the whole thing for what it is, a collection of myths, contradictions, and wishful thinking. The divine spark of genuine curiosity, the natural human drive to understand the real world, can eventually cut through the fog of superstition. To keep the faith alive, they must indoctrinate. They must seize that fertile ground of a child's mind and plant their own seeds, choking out the unique, natural identity that would have otherwise blossomed. This is not a minor detail. This is a fundamental theft of self. The child, dependent on their parents for survival, for love, for everything, has no choice but to internalize these beliefs. They don't choose to believe in Jesus. They are taught to believe in Jesus because their parents believe, and their parents are their world. This reliance, this total vulnerability, is precisely what makes indoctrination so effective and so insidious. It becomes a multi-generational heirloom of unquestioned dogma. And the psychological fallout? It's significant, and it doesn't just disappear when they leave Sunday school. So let's talk about the immediate and long-term psychological effects on children who are subjugated to this. One of the most prominent negative effects is the suppression of critical thinking. As I've mentioned, questioning is often met with fear, guilt, or punishment, and sometimes all of the above. This teaches children to distrust their own intellect. They learn that their rational minds are liabilities, hindrances to spiritual growth. This can manifest in several ways. Children are often taught that the world outside their faith is inherently evil and dangerous. Every stray thought, every moment of doubt can be interpreted as sin, leading to pervasive anxiety and guilt. They live in constant fear of God's judgment, of eternal damnation, for perceived failings that are often simply natural human thoughts or emotions. When a child's innate curiosity is stifled and their questions are dismissed, it sends a clear message. You are not smart enough, or your thoughts don't matter. This can severely damage their developing self-esteem. They might internalize the belief that their worth is contingent on their unquestioning disobedience, rather than their inherent value as individuals. Indoctrination often presents a stark dichotomy: good versus evil, saved versus lost, us versus them. This binary thinking doesn't allow for nuance, complexity, or understanding that life is messy and ambiguous. This can lead to difficulties in navigating complex social situations and understanding diverse perspectives later in life. Now, the us versus them mentality and bigotry, and this is a massive one. When a child is taught that their religion is the one true way and all others are wrong, lost, or even evil, it breeds an us versus them mentality. This is fertile ground for bigotry and prejudice. They learn to fear, disdain, or even hate those who are different. And this isn't just about Christians versus non-Christians. You see it within Christianity itself. The denominations fight amongst each other. It's fascinating and utterly absurd how many Christian denominations view their particular brand of Christianity as the ultimate truth, while everyone else, including other Christian denominations, are misguided. You have some Christians who practically froth at the mouth about Catholics, others who demonize Protestants, and a whole spectrum of judgment aimed at anyone not adhering to their specific interpretation of Scripture. This internal division is a testament to the manipulative power of dogma. It creates a hierarchy of heresy where even within the same supposed faith, there's ample room for contempt and condemnation. And let's not pretend this is just some quaint historical footnote. The Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, have a long and brutal history of conflict fueled by this very us versus them mentality. Christianity, in particular, did not spread across the globe because its message of love your neighbor was so universally compelling. It spread through the sword, through forced conversions, through the torture and execution of those deemed heretics. As I've said before, the biblical God seems to rely on human beings for its very survival, as I've said in previous videos. And that survival has often been propped up by violence and coercion. In modern times, while explicit religious wars are less common in the West, the venom still spews. We see it in the politicization of faith, where adherence to Christian dogma becomes a litmus test for patriotism. And you'll notice I'm talking about the United States. I'm in the United States. We've got Christian nationalism going on, and those who are not Christians are a threat. So we see this in the alarming rise of groups like MAGA, like the MAGA movement, the MAGA Christian nationalist movement, where being anti-Christian is equated with being a criminal or a terrorist. This is a direct assault on the principles of freedom of religion, and crucially, freedom from religion that the United States Constitution supposedly guarantees. The Establishment Clause is routinely ignored, and Christianity is, by all observable metrics, favored, leaving atheists and other non-believers of Christianity feeling like second-class citizens in their own country. So what happens to these indoctrinated children when they grow up? What are the lasting psychological effects when they carry these deeply ingrained beliefs and the us versus them mentality into adulthood? Many adults who were raised in strict religious environments report a profound sense of not knowing who they truly are outside of that religious framework. Their identity was built on borrowed beliefs, on a narrative dictated to them. When they begin to question or leave the faith, it can feel like their entire world is collapsing, leaving them adrift without a compass. This can lead to severe identity crisis, depression, and a prolonged period of self-discovery that can be incredibly painful. The us versus them mentality is a massive barrier to genuine connection. If you've been taught to view outsiders with suspicion or contempt, it's hard to build meaningful relationships with people who don't share your precise belief system. This can lead to isolation, loneliness, and a superficial understanding of human connection. Even within relationships, there can be a constant pressure to conform, to ensure the other person aligns perfectly with their indoctrinated views. This is where the views others as below them and themselves as superior aspect comes into play. When your entire worldview is built on the premise that you possess the ultimate truth and everyone else is deluded or damned, it's a breeding ground for arrogance and a profound sense of superiority. This isn't necessarily conscious malice. It's a deeply ingrained belief system. Research in psychology and sociology has explored the links between religiously fundamentalist upbringing and certain personality traits. Studies on the psychology of religion often point to how rigid belief systems can foster intolerance and a lack of empathy towards outgroups, those on the outside of their religious sect. For instance, research by scholars like Dr. Robert J. Lifton on the techniques of thought reform and coercive persuasion, while often applied to cults, highlights the psychological mechanisms at play in any group that demands absolute adherence and discourages critical thought. And while not a formal diagnosis, the traits associated with the superiority complex can manifest in behaviors that resemble narcissistic tendencies. Individuals may exhibit difficulty understanding or sharing the feelings of others who don't think like them, believing they are inherently better or more deserving due to their faith. Reacting defensively or aggressively to any challenge to their beliefs or a worldview, and have an exaggerated sense of their own importance and wisdom. Anecdotal evidence from therapists and psychologists working with ex-Christians is replete with examples of adults struggling with the ingrained arrogance and judgment they learned in their religious upbringing. They often describe the painful process of unlearning these deeply embedded biases and developing genuine humility and respect for others. The pressure to maintain faith, the cognitive dissonance of reconciling dogma with reality, and the fear of damnation can contribute to significant mental health issues. Anxiety disorders, depression, obsessive-compulsive behaviors, which is often manifests as religious scrupulosity, and even trauma responses can be linked to severe religious indoctrination. The adverse childhood experiences, also known as ACEs, research clearly demonstrates that growing up in environments with high levels of psychological and emotional abuse, which religious indoctrination can often entail, leads to a cascade of negative health outcomes throughout life. When your life has been dictated by religious rules and commandments for decades, making independent decisions can be incredibly challenging. Even seemingly small choices can be weighed against a lifetime of ingrained dogma. This can lead to a form of learned helplessness, where individuals struggle to trust their own judgment and continue to seek external validation, often falling prey to new forms of manipulation. It's crucial to remember that the sheer number of Christians worldwide says nothing about the truth of their beliefs. It speaks volumes about the effectiveness of indoctrination and the human desire for belonging and meaning, even if that meaning is manufactured. Christianity, like many religions, has thrived not on the strength of its evidence, but on its ability to capture minds at their most vulnerable, to offer comforting answers in a complex world, and to leverage social pressure and fear. The individuals who manage to break free from the clutches of religious indoctrination are those who possess an indomitable spirit, a relentless drive for truth, and the courage to face the immense personal cost that often comes with deconstruction. They are the ones who dared to question, to think, and to ultimately reclaim their own minds. So, what's the alternative? What does true freedom look like? It looks like embracing reason, critical thinking, and evidence-based understanding. It looks like building a life based on empathy, compassion, and genuine human connection, not on fear and dogma. It means recognizing that atheism is not just a lack of belief, but a rejection of unsubstantiated claims. It is a position of intellectual honesty, acknowledging what we know and what we don't know, and being comfortable with uncertainty. Secular humanism, which I am also a secular humanist besides being ex-Christian, atheist, such as etc., etc., secular humanism offers a framework for living a meaningful and ethical life based on human reason, empathy, and a commitment to the well-being of all sentient beings, without recourse to the supernatural. For those of you who are currently deconstructing your faith, know that you are not alone. What you are experiencing, the doubt, the questioning, the fear, the exhilaration of discovery, is a natural and healthy part of reclaiming your autonomy. You are shedding a cage, and it's going to be disorienting at first. But the freedom on the other side is immeasurable. It's worth it. And to the Christians who may stumble upon this, who might be feeling that familiar sting of indignation, hear me out. Imagine, just for a moment, what a world would be like if every child was allowed to discover their own truths, to forge their own identity, free from the shackles of predetermined beliefs. Imagine the innovation, the understanding, the genuine love that could flourish when fear and judgment are replaced by curiosity and empathy. True freedom isn't found in blind faith or in the arrogant certainty of divine favor. It's found in the courage to question, the humility to learn, and the profound realization that we are all in this together, as thinking, feeling beings navigating a vast and wondrous universe. So what can you do? If you were raised in a religious environment and are struggling with its after effects, seek out resources. Connect with ex-Christian communities, such as this one. Consider therapy with professionals who understand religious trauma. Share your story. Your voice matters. It truly does. If you are a parent, please Reconsider the gift you are giving your children. Equip them with critical thinking skills. Encourage their questions. Let them explore the world with open minds and open hearts. Let them discover their own truth, not one imposed upon them. And to all of you who value reason and freedom, keep pushing back against the forces of dogma and ignorance. Support secular organizations, advocate for separation of church and state, and continue to engage in these vital conversations. Don't forget to like this video if you found it valuable. Subscribe for more discussions like this, and share it with anyone you think needs to hear this message. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear your experiences and perspectives. Also, if you enjoyed this podcast, consider supporting it by making a monthly donation of the very low cost of only $3 a month by joining my Patreon and becoming a member. The link is in the description below. Every dollar helps. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and stay free. Thanks for watching. I look forward to the next time we talk. Bye.